Hey guys, welcome to my channel Immigration Dream. If you are new to this channel, then I highly recommend you to subscribe because I talk about US and Canada immigration, but I also talk about other things related to immigration, travel, careers, and whatnot. So, uh, subscribe to my channel. That way, you get latest updates. So, last week I make a video on one of the YouTubers claim that all Indian embassies across the world are useless. First of all, I want to say one thing that the YouTuber that I said this about, I actually follow him and I like his videos a lot because he goes to everywhere and he actually lets us see the places that we will not have access. So, thank you very much, Yatri Doctor, for doing what you are doing. However, I do have my views because I do think that whatever he said, everything is not correct. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what I did not like, what I liked, and then what we, as a citizen of India can do to improve our consular services. So first of all, I saw the video about Yatri Doctor talking about all the Indian embassies are useless, and obviously, he was really hurt and frustrated because of the way Indian embassy or Indian consulate in Burkina Faso, which is the poorest and most unsafest country in Africa, did. First of all, let's talk about what I agree with him. So, Yatri Dr. Nawankur said that emergency contacts on on their website, if you dial or if you WhatsApp them, they will not respond after business hours, and that's actually a really sad thing if that's the reality. So if that was the case, then it's actually not a good thing. That government of India needs to look into it, because emergency contacts are there for a reason, and you need to have somebody attend it 24 hours. So if our consulates or our embassies are just ignoring the emergency phones, then that emergency contact number is of no use, because if there is an emergency and if Indian citizen is needed it, then that number should be available. But again, I'm going to talk about what exactly happened. So this happened, I think I saw some videos where this happened two times, one in Burkina Faso and then one in Afghanistan. First of all, we need to look at what Burkina Faso and Afghanistan are. Burkina Faso is one of the poorest country in the Western Africa, where there is a really high terrorism, there is a really high kidnapping, and the government is not stable, and basically government interferes in the common people's life. That is, there is no democracy. On the Afghanistan side, Afghanistan was an active war zone for years, and it is still ruled by Taliban. What that means is that the rule of law is absent in Afghanistan. Indian consulate issues advisories for travelers to not travel to these countries for a reason. Indian consulates, Indian embassies do research, and then they talk with other governments like US, and then put advisories out that, hey, this country is absolutely not safe for tourists to travel because you will get kidnapped, you will not get fair treatment, and blah blah blah. They issue this advisory. So as a good citizen, you are not supposed to travel to these countries, because then if you travel to these countries, you are taking a risk that you might get in trouble in these countries. So Nawankur, you actually travel to these countries, even with the warning of Indian and US government. I do not agree with that, because if you are going to take that risk of traveling to other country, then you own that risk. Okay. uh, Indian consulates or Indian embassies are there for a reason. They are there to support people for various different reasons. One of them is people having emergency. Now, for all the users, I want to describe what an emergency is. Emergency is something where your life is in danger. If your life is in danger, that is, you get kidnapped by, let's say, dacoits, or you get kidnapped by terrorists, then yes, your life is in danger. But what Navankur mentioned, so what happened is, from at least from what I saw from video that he posted, he had a picture of him standing in Middle East on a battle tank, and obviously he went there as a tourist. However, when the police in Burkina Faso saw that picture, they used it to take him into the custody, because they felt that he has a different purpose in Burkina Faso. Now, I know that that is incorrect, but when you are going to a country like Burkina Faso, where there is no fairness, you have to expect that they are not going to understand all this, right? Having said that, police interrogating you about this is not an emergency. So I don't actually understand why you need Indian embassy, to actually take care of it. It is pretty simple. You went there, they saw you, they asked you questions, and they verified you, and then they let you go after a few hours, or maybe after 24 hours. I don't think that's an emergency situation, because they still let you go out. They still allowed you to film. I saw the videos where next day you filmed some videos. So I don't understand why you are so mad at Indian embassy especially. Now, I do agree that Indian embassy did not pick the emergency call. So, I don't think your case was an emergency situation, but there would have been a case where there's actually an emergency and Indian embassy did not pick the call, and that's absolutely wrong thing. However, I think your case was not an emergency situation. Your life was not in danger. You were, in the Burkina Faso, which is a crazy country. You were actually at the safest place in Burkina Faso, which is a police station where nobody can touch you or nobody can harm you. They wanted to interrogate it. They must have got your background check done, and then they released you. Obviously, you're not going to get fancy treatment like food and water and bed in Burkina Faso. Okay, so I think Burkina Faso's police did their job in 24 hours. Their system did their job, and you were released without any harm. And then you were allowed to stay in the country. You did not get deported, and you were allowed to stay in the country. You were allowed to still travel in the country, and you were allowed to shoot in the country. So please, don't call this as emergency. According to me, it's not an emergency. Emergency is where your life is in danger, and you feel like something's going to happen to your life. Now, as I mentioned initially, going to Burkina Faso in a country where there is active terrorism, there's active kidnapping, there's no stable government, you as a traveler accept that risk. So there's no need to declare this as an emergency. It's a self-inflicted thing. Now, one thing that I do not agree in this particular case, and I'm going to say this in a particular case because I don't think it's true with all the Indian embassies. Indian embassies do excellent job, outside India, mostly repatriating people from, war zones back to India. Indian government has done exceptional job in last few years helping our citizens get a good status, but also repatriating them to India when there was a war. For example, when the war in Ukraine and Russia started, Indian government flew 50 plus flights from Ukraine to India. When there was a crisis in Qatar, Indian government and Indian consulate actually helped all the Indians come back safely. Whenever there's any national calamities outside, Indian government has not only helped Indian citizens, but also other citizens of the world. And that's why, there's a lot of respect of Indian consulates, Indian embassies in entire world. Now, in your case, I completely agree that Indian government or Indian embassy did not pick your emergency call. And irrespective of your reason, the emergency call needs to be picked, right? Because that is an emergency. Now, so instead of saying that, hey, all the Indian embassies or all Indian consulates are wrong, what can we do differently, Navankur? What can we do differently? So I think I do have some proposed solutions. For example, let's say in Burkina Faso, where there could be only 1 or 2 emergency contact numbers, if the Indian emergency contact is not actually reachable, then that call should have got forwarded to a centralized agency or centralized system where emergency situations can be taken care of, and then respected authorities can be notified. I think that's something that our government should look at. Like, hey, if the emergency contact number is not working, then forward that call to somewhere else where you can still communicate your emergency. I think Navankur, I love watching your videos and actually respect you for what you do. However, just I request you to not make, if there's a one bad apple or 2 bad apples in the system, don't make entire system bad. Okay, don't call entire system bad, because that's not the case. There's so many different and efficient things happening. I know you are frustrated, and I think you have a valid reason to be frustrated. However, I think what you should do though, that you should come out and say why on the earth you decided to travel to these countries where your own Indian government, and if you don't trust Indian government, the US government has declared a Red 4 emergency, which means you should never go to such countries because you will not get fair treatment, you will not have consular support. Why, as a traveler, you decided to go that? I think you need to explain that to your subscribers. Why are you taking such risks? Because that's the point we need to discuss. I know that you want to visit all these countries, and I respect you for that, but if it is not safe to go to these countries, then you need to respect what our government says instead of blaming them for not supporting you. Okay, so I think this is my view. I know there will be a lot of users who will agree with me, and I know there's like a lot of users who will not agree with me. So I'm open to your suggestions, I'm open to your comments, I'm open to what you say. But Navankur, you should come out and release a video saying why you decided to go to these countries and why you are doing this, even if our government and then the US government has declared Red 4 emergency. We want to know why, because that's more important. Is it for YouTube views, or is it for your passion, or is it for something else? Like, we don't know, but I think everybody need to know, because we as your subscribers, we need to know why you are doing this. But again, hopefully, you can, if you talk to the Indian embassy people, maybe you can convey to them how we can fix the system. That is, can we make a centralized system where we report emergency? Is there a Twitter account where we can report the emergency? I think let's have a constructive dialogue instead of just blaming government and blaming Modi as a Vishwaguru and whatnot. I think that's not a healthy discussion. I hope you like this video, and if you like this video, or if you don't like this video, I still ask you to subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.